On this episode of the Five Paragraph Podcast, I, your host, Michael J. Penney, am joined by Mr. Mark Munger of MarineForLife.org. Mark served over 20 years in the United States Marine Corps, and we're going to get into a little bit of his background and how Marine for Life actually works and how they add value to our fellow Marines' lives. So, without further ado, Mr. Mark Munger of MarineForLife.org, welcome to the Five Paragraph Podcast.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. All right, so we got in touch a little while ago through another veteran service organization. We were talking about how Marine for Life works, and I did not realize that you were actually a part of the Marine Corps. Could you tell us a little bit about how your transition out of the Marine Corps and into this other Marine Corps experience kind of worked to build the background for our audience?
Sure. So as I was getting ready to retire myself, Marine for Life Network has been around since about 2002, so it's been around for a long time. And I had heard about it as I was getting ready to retire, but I had an opportunity a few years ago to take the position that I was in providing resources at Camp Lejeune through Marine Corps Community Services and amplify that a little bit with an opportunity to become the Southeast Region Network Coordinator for the Marine for Life Network. And what we do is we're a headquarters Marine Corps program that is a part of the Marine and Family programs with personal and professional readiness. And so we are here to assist transitioning Marines, their families and veterans with resources and connectivity to help them with their transition.
Excellent. Okay, so you spent over 20 years in the Marine Corps, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so how long in total? What was your MOS primarily throughout your military experience? Share with the people a bit.
Well, I'm a Marine bandsman. And so I was able to serve on both coasts. Out in Okinawa, we were able to uphold our customs and traditions and ceremonies greatly. That is what we did. Another reason why the Marine for Life Network is so very important to me, because, once you stand on those yellow footprints, you are a Marine for Life. So we are here to empower and connect, and it all relates to each other.
Excellent. So here's here's the real question: why you have those golden pipes? It's because you exercise them in the Marine Corps and you're used to doing this type of stuff, right? I mean, we were talking about this before because I asked you whether or not you had been in broadcast or radio or any of these other things. And for people that are familiar with ceremonies, would you be the guy that's on the microphone doing some of that stuff during our formations and balls and things like that?
I certainly have. Since I've retired, I actually have been the MC for the last 5 years at the retiree ball aboard Camp Lejeune, where I get to read all the messages and play MC. Yeah. I've done graduation ceremonies on Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune, doing voiceovers during concerts. Yes.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. Folks, Mark Munger, excellent guy. Connect with him on LinkedIn. You've got a little bit of his background here. So now feel free to reach out to Mark Munger and help out MarineForLife.org. And here on the Five Paragraph Podcast, we're going to get into the situation paragraph for our listeners who are already familiar. All right. You guys know that we're going through the 5 paragraphs. We're going to walk Mr. Mark Munger of MarineForLife.org through the 5 paragraphs. Should be easy enough for a fellow Marine. So that situation, the problem opportunity, the enemy situation that you're seeing, right? So it's that big, fat, whopping need that Marine for Life is going against tackling. What do you see out there?
So what we do, Michael, is we are attacking the problem of when people prepare to transition, whether that transition is a promotion, maybe getting married, or getting ready to leave active service. These are all major life events, and sometimes people just aren't prepared. So the Marine for Life Network is here to empower with connecting to resources, whether while they're on active duty, to those things like the transition readiness counselors, to maybe the library, maybe to a financial readiness person. You just never know what it is. Potentially it's behavioral health. We are here to connect them with their active duty resources. And then as they're transitioning and they're thinking about, what is it that I want to do? Now we can take it with our face-to-face network, which is our staff NCOs and officers in the Marine Corps Reserve, who are stationed out and we've got about 70 of them right now, and they're in major metropolitan areas across the country. So if you're going to Dallas, Texas, if you're going to Los Angeles, New York City, Tampa, you obviously get the idea what our major cities are. We have folks out there growing these networks. So if you tell me that you're interested in being a logistician and you want to go to Atlanta, then potentially the Marine for Life Network might be able to put you in contact with what we might call a warm handoff or connection so that you can reach out to them and not get a closed door. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have a job for you, but they're going to look at your resume. They're going to have a conversation. They're going to say, yeah, I think that you're moving towards this industry, but you might want to change this to this in your resume because in the civilian sector, we speak this adjective this way, whereas the military speaks it this way. So trying to coach people to take the green out of their resume, and obviously unless they're going to defense contracting, but we try and help people that way. So that is the situation. Connecting with empowering resources so that we are able to assist our transitioning Marines, their families, and veterans.
There it is. So boom, you just rolled straight into the mission for us though, because what you're doing is you're connecting those Marine veterans and Marine Corps to Marine Corps resources, right? So you will do this in order to accomplish that. I think it's interesting because whenever I talk with fine folks like yourself who are talking with people who are transitioning, you have to understand what the language of the individual in a lot of these businesses are already speaking. That was a huge reason why we did 5-paragraph. Do you see the irony in that? Something which is the military management method being brought out to business. And what do we have to do? We had to fill it full of business terminology, obviously. It can't be beans, bullets, bad guys, bombs, all of that other good stuff. It's got to be business-related resources all throughout it. So I definitely understand what you mean by taking a little bit of that green out of it. But they're hiring you as that Marine, as that veteran for a reason, though, right? You've got the discipline, the fortitude, you show up on time, look the part, take responsibility for your actions, right? So if you're a highly motivated veteran, a highly motivated Marine that's coming out of the Marine Corps, as we get into our execution paragraph here, what is the intention of the Marine for Life program? When you're a Marine coming out, you've done the transition readiness, you've done all of that other good stuff. What is your intention? And then we'll kind of get through your objectives to the desired end state of Marine for Life. So we're in that execution paragraph.
Well, very good. So as we execute, we try and recommend to folks, obviously, to connect to www.marineforlife.org. And it's a really simple process. As you come on to the webpage, you click on that blue button, you answer some very simple questions, but we ask people to be specific in what they need. Again, I talked about being a logistician in Atlanta. We can take that a step further and talk, maybe you want to be in commercial transportation. Maybe you want to be in warehousing. It all depends on your needs so that we can make that best connection. Obviously, we have contacts and connections that even if you just say, I want a job, we're going to guide and steer you and try and provide you to start a conversation. Because what it's about is so that you look in the mirror and know what it is you want to do. Finding that why, which is very challenging for a lot of people to do.
Absolutely.
So if we can help stimulate conversation, to review resumes, to potentially practice interviewing techniques, to put you in conversation with maybe some mentors like Veterati or ACP, so that you can start working towards what are the steps I need to do to close those skill gaps. Sometimes you might find, oh, I was an 03 and this is all I can do. Well, chances are there's a lot more to you than just this is what I did. So you need people like yourself to be able to grow and intensify those desires as you know what, you're able to go through and execute that entrepreneurship plan because these are your skills. And if you're self-motivated and self-guided, you can do whatever it is you want to do.
Absolutely.
In that same vein, we do have to realize there are some professions that do require certifications, that do potentially require degrees. So if you have an opportunity to utilize your transition assistance while you're on active duty, we try and encourage young Marines to do that. Put your toe in the water, try and take a class, see if it fits. Maybe utilize a SkillBridge. SkillBridge is a fantastic program. Those internships potentially are going to align you with a company within the industry, and maybe at the end there might be a job, but if nothing else, you're going to gain some training. So we ask people to have their eyes and ears open so that they're taking advantage of their transition skills through that transition readiness class. Reach out to the Marine for Life Network to gain some of those extra things, and maybe even utilize USO Pathfinders or go through with groups like CMA, Centurion Military Alliance. There's just all sorts of great organizations out there that are there to help all active duty transitioning service members, veterans, and especially military spouses these days.
Outstanding. Well, and as I was saying at the beginning of the show, I found it very interesting that Marine for Life also is a attachment, a contingent, a detachment of the Marine Corps. How would you put that? Because it is a continuation, in my opinion, of my Marine Corps experience, more so than going to some of these other veteran service organizations that are out there. So it is funded, backed up. How would you put it as far as the marineforlife.org or Marine for Life organization?
We are funded by Headquarters Marine Corps. We are part of Marine and Family Programs. And within Marine and Family Programs, we're part of a program called Personal and Professional Readiness. So inside that, we are directly assimilated with those programs on the installation. So like I said earlier, if I'm talking to an active duty Marine, you know what, you've got about 2 years before you transition. Let's look at Education Center. Let's look at the library. Let's look at talking to a transition readiness advisor. Potentially, you know what, let's maybe go to the community counseling center if you need to talk to somebody. That it's okay to raise your hand and say, you know what, I've got a problem. You know, so we need to always listen, find out what those immediate needs are. And then after we figure out what the immediate need is, maybe we can figure out what the second and third level is, provide resources for that also. And we're just pointing them in the right direction to empower them to make their life choices.
Right on. See, I think that's so great. It's coming at it from the Marine Corps perspective, right? There's not really another angle to it. And that's the reason why I wanted to highlight the goodness in that. Because what I hear, correct me if I'm wrong, desired end state for marineforlife.org or the Marine for Life organization is successful Marines, right? Isn't that a better recruiting tool than, you know, hey, yeah, if you join the infantry, you're really not going to have any skills. Hey, I was an infantryman, right? So I served 8 years as a grunt, came out the back gate. No, there's plenty of skills that I learned throughout my Marine Corps experience that parlays very well over into the business world, right? Aside from all of the leadership aspects of things, it's the ability to adapt and overcome in a developing situation, to think on one's feet and be able to delegate authority, to be able to handle that situation, right? This is the reason why we're bringing 5P and the ability to go and delegate authority while maintaining accountability. It's because the Marine Corps taught us this skill set. And the military as a whole, don't get me wrong, this is how we maintain cohesion. So the marineforlife.org, you're pushing resources toward Marines and family members in order to help them, not just in their transition, but throughout their entire Marine Corps experience, whether that's while they're still on active duty all the way through veteranhood.
Absolutely. You know, and the goal is we have folks, you know, when you stand on the yellow footprints or when you're being recruited, you know, you tell mom and dad, we're going to bring your son or daughter back better than they were before. And that is the whole entire idea of empowerment. You know, we have these resources, and you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So if I provide you with something that I might think is a good idea, but you can magnify that and you can make it fit you. And so if I just put an idea in your head and you're able to magnify it and make it blossom and grow, then we're taking those positive steps for your future. And when we look at everyone from an individualistic standpoint, each Marine, while they might be similar, everyone has certain scenarios that is going to be specific to their own character and ideas, especially when it comes to their transition in their future. So main thing we have to do is listen, create that, find that need, position the resource to empower them so that they can take their next steps.
Goodness grief. We're in the admin and logistics paragraph, and you're just hitting all of the talking points. This is fantastic. People, this right here, these insights of how people are adding value to Marines' lives, this is yet another reason why you need to subscribe to the 5P podcast. Do it right now and ring the bell in order to get notified. Okay, so I go to marineforlife.org. Am I going to see Mark Munger there? Am I going to be able to connect with you on LinkedIn? If I'm looking to go to marineforlife.org, am I trying to find resources on my own, or is it better for me to get with a person like yourself and then be ushered through some of those resources? How does that relationship work?
So we can take that from two standpoints. Let's go from, you found me on LinkedIn and you said, hey, you know what, I'm interested in some transition resources. I see that you're with the Marine for Life Network. Chances are, if that happens, I'm going to request that you go to www.marineforlife.org. Find the home page, click on the blue button, which obviously works for, and we didn't talk about this before, we work for Marines. We're here for the other services also their spouses and veterans, because, you know, once you take off the uniform, as much as people don't necessarily like the word, we all turn purple. You know, that whole purple resource, a veteran is a veteran. And sometimes, you know, that service animosity that goes across back and forth, you know, it shouldn't be there in the veteran space. So everyone can go to marineforlife.org. They can click on that blue button that says, I was an active duty service member, spouse, or veteran. And then they answer some real easy questions. You know, one of them is very challenging, you know, the name. I realized what my name was just a couple days ago. So that's the very first one. We put that down. But again, the most important one is going to be, what kind of assistance do you need? And in that one, is being as specific as possible allows us to, again, find that immediate need and to empower you with the resources. Now, if you're going at it and saying, okay, I'm on marineforlife.org, I want to connect and I'm looking for resources. How do you find Mark Munger? Well, you find Mark Munger through the Southeast region, and we have 5 major LinkedIn groups. So we have our national group, which we have resources, obviously, that relate nationally. And then we have our regional groups. So we have a Northeast group, a Southeast group, a Central group, and a West group. Within those, we have our Marine for Life representatives centered out throughout our regions. And this is how we do it. So if you say that you want to go, I'm going to stick with Atlanta just for fun, you're going to be provided to the Southeast region. So that's going to come to me. I'm going to send you a welcome message, and I'm going to connect you with a Marine for Life representative who is in that major metropolitan area if you're asking to go to Atlanta. Okay, so that is how we're getting connected. People can obviously reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Mark Munger out there. Happy to connect with everybody and direct you. My LinkedIn feed is full of resources from across the board. Not just with Marine for Life, but we share in the veteran space, but it's definitely centered on the veteran space to stick to what we love to say, the mission.
See, he always goes into the next paragraph automatically. It's fantastic. There's the command and signal, folks. Hey, so you broke it down fully as far as the command structure and the communication structure for people who are avid listeners to the 5-paragraph podcast. We're there. We've hit all of the paragraphs. Fantastic. Hey, all right, I got to ask you a curveball question. Don't worry, it's a very soft curveball. What is the most recent book or piece of literature that you've read that folks who are going through the Marine for Life could potentially gain some wisdom, some knowledge, some advice from? What's the most recent book or other resource that you might want to direct people towards immediately?
I tell you what, if I stand up for just a second, I'll show you 2. So I don't get the title. Got 2 fantastic books right here. The last one that I read was The Mission Transition.
Okay. Yeah.
The mission transition allows you to focus on what it is, branding yourself for that post-military career. And you'll find a book review of this in our next edition of the Warriors Connected, which I did. So I think this was a really good book. One that is fantastic for preparing for the job search is this one here. It's called The 2-Hour Job Search. And that one was written by a gentleman, Steve Dalton, who went to the Fuquay Business School. And of course, you know, that's right around the corner there at Duke from where you're at.
Yeah.
And this gives you step-by-step the ways and functioning of what it is that you should be doing, not wasting your time just sending things into the electronic abyss, but how can you hard target and focus those interested employers in you?
Outstanding. I love throwing those soft curveballs out there for our guests, our audience members. I'm sure we'll gain wisdom and knowledge from those two pieces of literature. Hold them up again real quick for me so that we can get those book titles. Mission Transition. Who's that by? Matthew J. Lewis. All right. Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army retired. Yeah. And who else we got? Is this another one? The 2-hour job search. Now, is this a fellow veteran? Steve Dalton. Okay. Using technology to get their job. There you go. Hey, folks, check it out. Go get the resources available at marineforlife.org. Connect with Mark Munger on LinkedIn. I love sharing these little tidbits with people. You know, it's one thing to come on here and promote what Marine for Life can do for people. It's another thing to be a human being. So I really do appreciate you being an approachable person, a fellow Marine who's out there, who's hooking and jabbing for our tribe and our greater overall tribe, our support network, our rocks that are out there that are helping us for when we get home, those family and loved ones. So I really do, I commend you. My hat's already off to you, all right? So Semper Fi, brother, I really do appreciate you doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Michael. Semper Fi to you.
Hoorah. All right, so folks, if you haven't already done so, you need to find Mark Munger on LinkedIn. We're going to be wrapping things up here with marineforlife.org. And again, for all of our listeners out there in podcast land, subscribe, rate, review the podcast right now so that you can get connected with other fine folks like Mark Munger. If you haven't already done so, join the 5P Inner Circle, where you will see all of our long-form interviews, uninterrupted, no advertising. Folks like Mark Munger who are spitting great resources, other additional pieces of knowledge that people can gain value from. So, all right, in closing, Mark, I know it's probably a question you get a lot, but do you have any advice for people just where they're at right now? They might see marineforlife.org. I know, get signed up, but do you have any advice for somebody who might be in a hurting way and they're coming to you out of need?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing, no matter what position in life you're in, get out of bed in the morning. You know, we all go through that morning routine. Look at yourself in the mirror. When you look at yourself in the mirror, if you have a positive look in your eye, if you smile at yourself and say, you know what, today I am going to accomplish this. That might be joining the Marine for Life Network. That might be showing up to work on time. That might be anything that falls into your immediate, life. However, if you take those little minor steps and say, today I'm going to do this, then we're going to make a positive difference in our lives.
Outstanding. Heck yeah, motivation. It's something that we've got to have, we got to replenish it daily, right? In order to keep moving forward. Well, fantastic. All right, folks, that's enough out of us. Thank you so much, Mark Munger, for joining me on this episode of the 5 Paragraph Podcast. Thank you to all of our listeners, you fine folks in the 5P family. We really do appreciate you. Become members of the 5P Inner Circle. Go to 5paragraph.com right now. And until next episode, take care and be well.